Macmillan Audio presents An Irish Country Love Story by Patrick Taylor. Read for you by John Keating. Chapter 1. In Perils of Water. "Brisk," said Dr. Barry Laverty, standing on the shore and watching his breath turn to steam in the chilly, early January air. The tang of the sea was in his nose, a fair breeze on his cheeks. Distinctly brisk, cold as a witch's No. Out of deference to one of his companions, he'd not make the allusion much loved by his senior partner to the frigidity of a wise woman's breast. Tucking his neck down into the collar of his overcoat, he held more tightly to Sue Nolan's gloved hand. The young schoolteacher, Barry's fiancee, was spending the weekend at No. 1 Main Street, Ballybucklebo, before returning to her exchange teaching work in Marseille. "Brrr," she said, despite being snuggled into a sheepskin coat and fur hat. Barry's old 6-foot-long British Medical Students' Association scarf was wrapped in layers round her neck. She pretended to chatter her teeth and smiled at him, the light sparkling from her green eyes. Her Mediterranean tan looked out of place on this wintry Ulster afternoon. "In some ways, I'll not be one bit sorry to be going back to the sunny Bouches de Rhône on Monday." She must have seen Barry's look. "And don't worry, silly. I'll be home for good in March, with the added qualification of having done a 6-month teacher exchange, and a much better command of French. I'll be getting a pay rise aussi." She pecked his cheek. He felt her lips, cold on his chilled skin. "And a wedding to look forward to," Barry said. He loved this girl with the long copper hair, distinct political views, and very tasty kisses. 2 months wasn't that long to wait. Not really. Our wedding. He hugged the idea. And mercenary though his thoughts seemed, her increase in salary would help out with the housekeeping. Becoming a full partner in O'Reilly's practice last January had been very good for the ego. But with what Barry was paid, it was unlikely that he'd soon be up there with the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers. "Our wedding," she said, squeezing his hand, and her smile was radiant. "Yours and mine, mon petit chou." Barry smiled at the French endearment, although why being called a little cabbage should be thought affectionate was beyond him. He held her gaze. Then his visions of their soon-to-be married life became entangled with the real world, as 2 little boys dashed past. One, pursued by a scruffy mongrel, yelled, "Happy New Year till yous all!" But before Barry could reply, Colin Brown and his dog, Murphy, had juked round a small crowd of folks enjoying a stroll in the Saturday sunshine. "Hey, lost! Go on out! Hey on!" Doctor Fingal Flahertie O'Reilly said to his big black Labrador. Typical of the man, he was hatless and wore a tweed sports jacket over a woolen sweater. No overcoat for him. Barry was convinced that O'Reilly, despite his colourful expressions about the cold, was impervious, even though his bent nose and boxer's cauliflower ears were red. Barry watched a tennis ball thrown by his senior partner fly over the damp ochre sand and splash into the waters that lapped Ballybucklebo beach. A kayak was hauled up above the tide line. Its owner must have gone to get something, because there was no one near the little craft, and unless the paddler came back, the soon-to-be rising tide might carry the boat out to sea. Arthur Guinness charged past the kayak, his paws leaving blurred prints on the beach. What must be very chilly water didn't seem to bother the big dog as he swam out, grabbed his ball, turned, and headed snorting for the shore. It would be for him no worse than...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?